Stop relying on the utility company for power. The utility company doesn't want you to get solar and battery backup because potentially they're losing a customer. There's nothing you can do about it, right? Or is there? There is. Utilities are in charge of your power. If you don't do something about it, they'll continue to collect your money forever. That's an interest only loan for the rest of your life. Just paying in and paying in. No principal. When in reality, you could buy a solar system and make principal payments and own your power at the end. I'm Joel Robinson, founder, pilot, entrepreneur, father, and football coach. I'm here to give you the best advice on how to purchase solar and battery backup systems. If your utility continues to raise rates, change your fees, or control the power, then this information is for you. Utilities have to make money to pay for power line maintenance, pay employees' salaries, and build new connections. Solar power is the cheapest power available. It really is. Nothing else compares. There's some big wind farms where the power is really comparable. That's a truth. Requires a specific area, a lot of wind, a lot of consistent wind. But as a general rule, solar is the cheapest. It really is. And that's over the total lifetime of the system. So you do have to buy the system and you divide that over all the years that it's useful, the total power that's produced divided by its useful life to come up with a levelized cost of ownership. So that's a formula that backs up why we say solar's the cheapest out there. And this is because solar has reached a critical production scale. They produce so many solar panels now in manufacturing settings that have been in use for years. So they've written off a lot of the cost of the development, and the solar panels are just much cheaper to produce now. That cost is continues to come down. We see about 100% decline in the last 10 years. And we'll continue to see it decline, but maybe not by those drastic type of rates. Solar doesn't require transmission lines. So we don't have to include the cost, all the wire and the towers to transport that power potentially hundreds of miles. In some situations, that power travels really long distance, and that infrastructure is expensive to maintain. And there are some line losses. So as electricity travels those long distances, you lose some of the power. It's called a line loss. And so solar is relatively inexpensive to install, and then the power from the solar panels is used right on site. So it flows from the roof down the electrical panel straight to your hot water heater or your light bulbs or your refrigerator. So with that said, batteries are really the future for a lot of reasons. Solar is well known, but the batteries are on their way. And batteries continue to lose costs along as production increases. And many battery factories are being built across the US, and they are continuing to churn out batteries for electric vehicles. So a lot of the battery cells, which is just, a round cell that's used in an EV, can be used in battery energy storage systems also. So that great big factory that produces all these cells can go in an electric car, or they can go in an energy storage system, which can be installed in your home. Okay, and that can be used to back up your home. The second reason why batteries have come down and cost so much is just the installation technique themselves. If you can think about the time and effort that an installer has to spend to assemble the batteries. Um, that adds extra cost. So, new battery tech is easier to hang on the wall, easier to assemble, easier to wire, easier to commission, get set up, and follow those processes. Even if something takes one extra day, it can add a significant amount of cost to a system. So saving that person the extra 3, 4 hours at the end of the day might be the difference between $5,000 or $8,000. So those are big dollar amounts. Just ability to install it faster. The the commissioning process, which is the startup process, requires that the system checks in with all of its components, reports its current state, applies software updates. Those can all take time as well, right? And if you have a technician sitting there waiting for software updates to apply, that costs extra money. So these manufacturers got a lot better about how they communicate, how they update, and the length of time that this process. Another big one is the chemistry. Battery chemistries have switched to lithium iron phosphate primarily, which is just iron phosphate's an iron type of product. And when I say this, not to compare against lithium ion, which is different, but they're kind of in the same category. I'm really referring to lead acid batteries. I've taken out some old lead acid batteries that require a lot of extensive maintenance. They require regular testing of the pH level in the water. They have to go through a descaling process. And the one that always gets me is they have to be actively ventilated to the outside. So lead acid batteries require active ventilation. That's because they put off poisonous gases. So the new batteries are so much better. The chemistries are way better, so much better. They don't require any maintenance. There's almost no fire hazard at all. Now that's not totally true. There's some fire hazards associated with it, but we install them in garages and basements all the time. There's the manufacturer's not going to let us do those if there's a possibility of a lawsuit there. It's just not a thing. So a big reason why you can claim your own power and that you can be in charge of your energy is because of batteries. And they've changed in so many ways. They've reduced their cost overall. The technique to install them and their chemistry is much different as well. Um, so there's a couple options too for home batteries. You can do a whole home backup or you can do a partial home backup. Whole home backup means the entire house runs off the batteries if the power goes out or if you choose to do that. That's a much bigger load, a lot more variables, but we can do it. We have a lot of whole home backups, and that's because someone wants the whole house to run off the batteries. They don't want just a few select appliances. Costs more money, more batteries, more technicality, more installation, more time to set it up and run it. But the alternative there is what we call a critical loads panel, or there are some other techniques just to run a few things, a few select items that are most important. We regularly talk about well pumps, refrigerators, internet, lights. There's some really key components to get right on there, and we do have to talk about that ahead of time. There's a couple different ways to accomplish it. I'll talk more about those later because they do require quite a bit of discussion, but that partial home backup is a less expensive, easier, faster way to install a home battery backup system. And you can control your own power, make sure that you've got medical equipment that's running, or maybe a freezer full of really prized elk meat or crab legs. I had a customer with crab legs that was um, super cool. Now, who would want battery backup? Well, it's more common if you're in an area where there's outages. You know, if you never experience an outage, then it's less of a concern. A base depends on your location, depends on the type of utility service that you have in your area. But if you have power outages even a few times a year and you don't want to deal with that, you're sick of the utility, having that control review, battery backup's a great option. Really is. Very mature and sophisticated solutions um, for you to be able to take back your power and stop relying on the utility. It's really a way for you to control your power, and you just don't have to rely on the utility. So if you like what I've been talking about, please subscribe to the channel or watch this other video to learn more. Thanks so much.